He is a friend of mine, works with the NFL Network reporter, Huddle and Flow podcast co-host Steve Wyche joins us now to talk all things NFL draft. What's up, Steve? How you doing, buddy?
Ryan, man, so great hearing your voice. Hope all is well, and I'm doing well. I'm here down at Flowery Branch with the Falcons, so things are exciting down here.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. You know, it was announced about a month ago or so that you were really going to kind of take a deep dive into the Atlanta Falcons program and be around them more often. How has that been, and how are you looking forward to it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of cool. You know, I'm still with the NFL Network, but I'm just going to be helping out with some of their digital and broadcast production stuff, and also help call the preseason games. So, you know, I'm kind of expanding my bandwidth while also, you know, there's a little extra coverage of the Falcons, you know, and I'll be using this information on the NFL Network as well. So it's just kind of bringing more attention to that ball club and you know, a lot of attention to the games played in the Southeast in the NFL. You know, because a lot of times they get overshadowed. You know, all these teams, the Titans, even the Buccaneers, you know, Saints, Panthers, teams like that, they get overshadowed when we talk about a lot of the other teams in the NFL. So me being a presence here a little bit more in Atlanta will hopefully shine a little bit more light on the football that's played down here, especially since the defending Super Bowl champions played in the NFC South.
Yeah, well, a lot of light was shown on that pick of theirs yesterday. Really, the first round hinged on a lot of what they decided to do. Arthur Smith gets the new job this offseason. They decide to stick with Matt Ryan. They are always going to, but there was talk about taking a quarterback with a very deep quarterback first round last night. They decided to go with probably the best all-around player in Kyle Pitts. Talk to us about their decision-making to take Pitts and stay away from a quarterback there in the first round.
Yeah, you know, when it came down to it, you know, Pitts fit what they want to do in a lot of different ways. As we know, Arthur Smith, the new head coach, loves the tight end, right? We saw what he did in Tennessee with Jonnu Smith and Delaney Walker, last year with Anthony Ferguson and Jonnu Smith. So here they've got Hayden Hurst, but now they add a Darren Waller-type player in Pitts, except Pitts might even be a better blocker than Darren Waller. So you add that to Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones if he's going to be here next season, and you've got a lot of offensive potential to do some things. So, you know, we'll see what they do in these later rounds to fix some of the holes on defense, but they feel really confident that they've got not only a dynamic player, but someone, when you hear about how he practiced and how he handled himself at Florida, really can help establish a culture, not establish a culture, but kind of meld into the culture they're trying to establish here.
You brought up Julio Jones. The conversation got started a few days before the draft, and because of the cap issues that the Falcons sit under, his name was brought into the conversation around possibly being moved out of there. A defense scheming game changer for the Atlanta Falcons now may be on the move. Where do you think that sits right now, and is it something that really still could be a possibility for this team?
Oh, it's real. It could really happen. You know, from some folks I've talked to here, these are conversations that can continue all the way up until training camp. You know, and this is all stemming. They don't want to trade the player, right? They know how great and impactful the player is, but their salary cap is, you know, it's just so precarious right now. I mean, look, they've got to clear some space to even sign their rookies. So when teams started calling about Julio Jones, they were like, well, this might be a way to get some salary cap relief. And, you know, Julio Jones, as great of a player as he is, he's been nicked and he's 32. This might be the time when he's at his greatest value to possibly bring some future assets in return. So again, maybe they try to work something out, but as long as people start, continue to call, they're going to listen. And, you know, you really get the feel if they get an offer with all future picks that they feel can help eventually, help them eventually down the road. Julio could really be on the move. I mean, this is very serious. This is very real.
Yeah, it seems to be, and Matt Ryan has to be quaking in his boots with the thoughts of losing that giant out there. You're locked in with all things NFL. The NFL draft, of course, was a huge deal last night, but a quarterback, a reigning MVP, makes all the news. And the stories that came out about 2 hours before the draft around Aaron Rodgers and the disgruntled employee part of it and not wanting to be a Packer anymore, and the conversations around the Broncos and the 49ers. What do you make of it all? And is this just a bunch of smoke once again? Are we going to see Aaron back in a Green Bay uniform, or is this an actual threat that he's willing to walk through?
Man, I'm so glad you brought up Aaron's name because I thought you were going down the Tim Tebow rabbit hole for a minute there, Ryan. but no, I mean it seems real. I mean this is the fact that Brian Gutekunst and the Packers leadership came out last night and said, "Hey, look, we're working through some things, but we're not trading him." So I think if it comes down to a game of chicken, we're seeing Aaron Rodgers decide if he wants to go back there and be unhappy or if he wants to be the host of Jeopardy, because it doesn't sound in any way, shape, or form that the Packers are going to move him, relinquish his rights in any way, shape, or form. And so maybe they do something with his contract, something to appease him. But yeah, I mean, look, we know Aaron has showed his displeasure before, but the fact that this came out when it did, right before the draft, and it was so pronounced, and that it was very real, goes to show you they've got some bridges to overcome. And it's just so interesting how we've had Russell Wilson and now Aaron Rodgers and guys like this come out and really show themselves publicly with some in-house business that typically is kept behind the scenes.
It definitely. And then though, it just like a slap in the face, they go and draft another player that isn't on the side of his on side of the football. They have never once drafted a player for him on the offensive side of the football in the first round except for one. Last year, Jordan Love, and that certainly wasn't for him.
Yeah, that was the real slap in the face to him. And of course, he says, "Okay, I'll show you," and goes out and wins the MVP with the pieces that they have given him. And that seems like what they're saying is like, "Look, you won the MVP last year. We almost got to the Super Bowl. Do it again." Look, there's been no quarterback in our generation, this is talking to coaches, assistant coaches, whomever, who has been asked to do more for his team individually with his athletic performances than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he is asked to bail them out of bad play calls, to win ball games for them, to overcome suspect defensive play over and over. So I think he's at the point of his career saying, I really don't need this anymore. I really don't need to accomplish anymore on a football field. So let me flex a little bit. I love the game, but, if I have to leave it, I'm good. I've got other options.
What do you think the biggest, we're talking with Steve Wyche from the NFL Network. What do you think the biggest surprise was last night in the NFL draft? Was it the Eagles move? Was it the Bears making the big jump for Justin Fields? Where did you see the biggest surprise from last night?
Well, clearly, to a bunch of people who fell for the okie doke, it was the 49ers taking Trey Lance when so many people thought they were taking Mac Jones. I mean, this was so beautifully played by the 49ers. How just not dispelling any of the Mac Jones conversation, really playing into it. When Ryan, I spoke to people, I even reported it 2 weeks ahead of time, saying, look, I'm speaking to people around the league who say, they're telling me it's not going to be Mac Jones. I mean, and, they were suggesting that they really, really loved Trey Lance and they were doing a lot on him. Turned out to be that. But it's just amazing how once, a couple reports came out about the Mac Jones thing, how it just created this landslide, and nobody was talking about him being a top 5 player until the Niners made that trade. And the fact that it created that much hysteria, and then on draft night, they're like, no, we're taking Trey Lance. I think that really, I don't think it necessarily changed the draft pecking order that much. But I do think that was probably the biggest public surprise that there was.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were, and to your point, I think people just had bought into the idea that Mac Jones all of a sudden was going to be anointed the king by Kyle Shanahan when he was not. No one out there anywhere had prescribed to him as a top 5 pick. So the fact that it played out on national TV like he dropped to the Patriots at 15 is absurd. I think it was a perfect place for him to go, and Bill Belichick has got to be a happy camper right now with what I would consider Tom Brady light coming out of college to be their next franchise quarterback.
Absolutely. You know he is loving this right now. They didn't have to move for him. He fell right to him. He's going into a situation where they've added so many pieces this offseason. He's going to a culture that's going to be very similar to what he had with Saban down in Alabama. So, the Patriots are like, this is great. But now they're going to start pressuring him, just like he had to go through to Alabama to come out and deliver.
And he didn't necessarily have to come out right away, man. I mean, he was the third-string quarterback, for a long time. So I liked how it played out. Before we get you out of here, let's talk a little bit about what the Falcons do next. Today is, of course, round 2s and 3. They have pick number 35. I liken them to do something at the quarterback position to ultimately, at a point, take over for Matt Ryan, maybe in a year or two. Is there a quarterback you think that falls into that place, either for them in round 2 or round 3, that they could reach for?
Yeah, I mean, look, I maybe more so round 3. We'll see if there's the run on quarterbacks, but you look at who's remaining, and that's the offensive line. A lot of talent there, but they really have got to find some help on defense. So I think if you look with that third pick in the second round, someone like Azeez Ojulari, the edge player from Georgia, who's played in a kind of a flex 34 scheme, which Dean Pease is going to run here, that could be an option. J.O.K., the linebacker out of Notre Dame, the Butkus Award winner, he could be an option, even maybe a corner like an Asante Samuel. I'm not going to rule out, though, running back, Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. They want to add an explosive running back to pair with Mike Davis. We'll see if they continue to go offense. But at some point, they're going to add a quarterback. Matt Ryan's the only one under contract. So I think when the quarterbacks start going, even if maybe they go mid-round, they use that fourth pick in the third round that they have and trade up to maybe go get into that company to possibly draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I like a young man out west here, Davis Mills. I think he would be a very
really
good fit.
Player.
Yeah, a very good fit in that offense. Steve, I appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck. Enjoy the second and third and rest of the weekend of the NFL draft. Always good to talk to you, my friend.
My man. Best to you, Ryan.
You bet. Steve Wyche, NFL Network, Huddle and Flow podcast, does it with Jim Trotter, old beat writer for the Chargers when I was in San Diego.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.